breathe underwater.
That they want to live, the lifestyle that they want to live. You feel me? But Snake is being called in. They done picked him up just as a person of interest. That he's not under arrest for anything, and he goes down to the station willingly but unwillingly. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't want to arouse suspicion by being too aggressive and telling him he's not going down and all this and that, because he knew that they could probably hold him for 72 hours. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't want to go through none of that. So he went down to the station voluntarily, you know what I'm saying, and talked to them about what they were asking, you know what I'm saying, as far as these robberies. They want to know where he's been, who he's been with, alibis. Did he know anything about what was going on? Had he heard anything in the streets? And all of those types of questions, man. And they ask you that kind of stuff. They ask you that kind of stuff. And now, a lot of times when they pull you in like that, they get a twofer. And a twofer is, one, you know, they get to talk to you. They can try to figure out and gauge if you're involved or if you're not involved. And two, if you are involved, right, that bringing you down to that police station can sometimes cause a split between you and who you might be working with. You understand what I'm saying? Because no matter what you think, when somebody that you're involved with in criminal activity goes to the police station, it's going to cause the person that didn't go down there to wonder what that person said. Did they tell anything on me? Am I safe now? You're going to do all of that. It's just natural. This is natural. And the police, they understand the psychology of this. They understand the psychology of mistrust. It's a very easy thing to create when you're dealing with people that are involved in the criminal lifestyle. No matter what you say, you're never going to be sure when they pull somebody that you're involved with into the police department of what they're going to say. No matter what they tell you. No matter what they tell you. Because you got too many situations that shows that people are going to look out for their best interests. But in this situation, Snake is not green. Again, like I told you, he's learned from his past. So he mainly wants to find out what they know. So they show him the pictures and all this and that and all these kind of things. And again, like I say, they didn't really have all of these high-tech cameras like they do today. They could pinpoint, you know what I'm saying, a mole on your chin. You understand what I'm saying? And tell you how many hairs are coming up out that thing. The footage was grainy, you know, and you can make a case that that is not you. You feel what I'm saying? Now, when he saw, because he knows who it is, in his mind, he sees, oh, yeah, there it is. That's Miami. You feel what I'm saying? But he's making sure that they don't have enough, because he's going to make sure that he protects his interests, not Miami's interests. And when he finishes talking to the police, they tell him, look, if you hear anything, would you let us know? And he tells them, look, if I hear something, I'm not saying anything anyway. But just so you know, I ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I'm working. I've given up the lifestyle. I've turned my life around. They don't believe that for 1 minute. Not for 1 second do they believe that. But both sides are playing their role. The police trying to catch him. Snake's trying to get away. That is the life that you live when you commit to a criminal lifestyle. It's all about deception. And part of the living a lifestyle of deception is deceiving yourself. Not being able to fully see what's going on because you want to paint this picture that's favorable to you. And Snake had done that. He'd gone through everything, every little detail that he could think of to make sure that they would be looking in the wrong direction. The different addresses that they get dropped off by the cab driver at, the way they look, even their height. You understand what I'm saying? Even their height and weight. All of these different things are going to matter when it comes down to IDing them, unless they can figure out what's going on. they can tell that something's off, but police go off of instinct and gut a lot, and they believe that they are on to something, and what they decide to do is start to follow Snake. Start to follow him, and now, after weeks of surveillance, they know where he lives, and they know who lives with him. They know who lives with him. And now they go back and they do some research at the prison, and they find out that they were at the same prison together. That's not unusual, though. You know, people that are in prison get out, you know what I'm saying, especially if they flatten and both of them, you know what I'm saying, hurting on the money side, they decide to pool their resources, get a place together, and move on from there, right? Nothing wrong with that when you're trying to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to cut down on expenses. So they didn't think anything was unusual or weird about that. They didn't think anything was unusual or weird about that. But when they saw Miami, they said, close, but not a bullseye. You understand? He's not as tall as the person in the video. He's not as old as the person in the video, as far as they could tell. So they started to think, well, maybe we're off here. Maybe we're off. So they keep doing these robberies, these bank robberies, every now and then, you know, and then all of a sudden, like I say, they just shut down. And the police are wondering what is going on. It's the winter that they crank up, spring and summer, they shut down. Now they've been doing this now. This is the second year. Things have been going fine for them, and they are living the life. They got jobs that are paying their minimum wage. They're not living outside of what they were making, but they were planning something big. They were going to get enough money, and then they were going to leave Tennessee, and they were going to be done. They were going to be done. They had one more winter to go. One more winter to go. So here we go. Things are going well for him, and the winter's on his way. The winter is on his way. And the police, they figured out it's the winter time. Now, they're not surveilling Snake in Miami anymore. They're still working the case, but they got other cases that they have to work. And they're pretty confident that these bank robberies are not going to start back up until the winter. They've seen, you know, what's going on. They put together the pattern. And so they're just waiting. They got other things they got to do. So the winter comes. And sure as the sky is blue, they get ready to crank back up. They get ready to crank back up. Now, Miami, let me tell you something about Miami. You ever met an individual, man, people out there that, you know, when they get excited and when they're talking, that saliva gets all up in the cracks of their mouths and it turns white. And sometimes when they talk, you know, they might accidentally spit. You ever met anybody like that? You know what I'm saying? You got to watch them when you're talking to them because they be done spit all up in your eye. And you're trying to be cool about it, but, you know, you done got spit on. You know what I'm saying? And he ain't mean it, but he did it. Now that's Miami. That's Miami. So, on one of the capers that they go out on, right, they doing their thing. But now they, keep in mind, listen to me, they always went separate ways, but they hit on the same days. They go separate ways, separate banks, same days though, right? So they know they're dealing with two people, the same MO. So Miami, he's at the bank, he's doing his thing, he's robbing. He getting the money put in the bag and everything, and he's talking, and he's excited. And what I tell you a few minutes ago about when he gets excited, he starts to salivate. Yeah, I know it's nasty, but listen to me, it's going to matter. He starts to salivate. And you know at the desk where the teller is, how they might have like the glass partitions that separate them from the next teller, not in front, but to the side. See, he's standing that way, and some of the spit, it hits that glass partition, right? And the woman, she noticed it because when the spit came out of his mouth, she kind of moved back a little bit while she's putting the money in the bag. She didn't want to get spit on. You feel what I'm saying? But it left that in her head. Listen to me. Every detail matters. So when the police come down there, she's giving them the description. They get the tape. The tape is grainy, the blah, blah, blah. The same scenario. Except she told him he spit accidentally while he was talking on the partition. What they do? Get CSI down here. Get them folks down here. We need to get some samples. We need to get some samples because they can run the DNA. They can run the DNA. Now, the DNA wasn't as sophisticated as it is today, but it was there. They used saliva. Listen to me now. They use saliva in rape kits, right? You know how they swab your mouth, pregnancy kits, you know what I'm saying, the DNA, you know, they do all of that. Well, they need spit. They need spit. Now, the officers, they were just hoping that it was enough on that partition to hit a match. They were hoping it was enough on that partition to get a match. So they get somebody down there and they swab it. It's not enough, though. They sent it to the lab. The lab said they need a little more. It's not enough. So now they got something to go on. The next bank, the same thing. He gets excited. He's talking. He's spitting. So when they questioned the teller, they asked her, did he spit while he was talking? She was like, yes. And now, instead of just swabbing, getting a sample from the partition, they got the sample off the desk and everything. They're trying to get enough of this DNA from this spit to make a connection. Now what they do, listen to me, these folks ain't playing. Let me tell you something. What they do, because they hit 3 or 4 more banks, they get all the samples together to create one sample. Come on now, listen to me. They get all the samples. Now, keep in mind, other people come to those desks too. So how do you isolate that? You feel what I'm saying? How do you isolate that? But they get enough of those samples and they run it. They run it. And they got enough from him. Because one thing that all of these areas had in common, he was there. And his spit is what was on the partition or either on the desk or both. The other individuals that were coming to the bank, they were not at every bank that he was at. So it was enough of his stuff there. And after 4 or 5 more bank robberies, the lab said they had enough for a good sample. And they ran it. And woo-wee, good golly, Miami popped up. He popped up. So now they had enough, at least enough, to prove that he was there. He was there. And now they had enough to prove that Snake might be involved. Why? Because they are roommates and Snake is known to be a bank robber. So now they get warrants. Now they're surveilling them. And they're not just surveilling them through the winter because it's almost time for them to shut down again. They said they're going to be watching them until they get something. Now they were watching them. They checking the trash. And they wasn't doing anything unusual. Snake was smart. He was smart. They had moved the money from that house and buried it somewhere. They were straight. They wasn't going to let them hit the house and find anything. They weren't going to let them hit the house and find anything. So the police watching. They ain't getting nothing. Because their patterns are the same. They get up, they go to work, they come home. They order out for pizza. They might go to the grocery store or whatever the case may be. They're just living a single life, a bachelor's life. They might have a female over every now and then, you know what I'm saying, for both of them, whatever the case may be. But nothing out of the ordinary for bachelors. Nothing. Now the police are getting impatient. Now they got a meeting with the DA and they go talk with the DA and the DA says, look, we have to move on this case. Is there anything else that we got other than him being, you know, with these tests of DNA that show that he's at the scene? Because the DA said just because he's at these banks don't mean he was the one that robbed these banks, even though they think he's the one that robbed them because the tellers are saying that he's spitting when he was talking. But that can be easily argued down by a good lawyer. He's going to the bank. You feel what I'm saying? That's it. He can argue that down. But then on the flip side, what was his business at the bank? Because if he went there to cash a check, they would have proof of that. If he went there to make a deposit, they'd have proof of that. So they got enough to shake him. So they pull him in. They bring Miami down. And they tell him, say, look, have you ever been to these banks? Now listen to them. When they ask you questions, like they already know the answer. And he had already been schooled by Snake. So he said, yeah, every now and then, I got to go to the bank and, cash a check or something like that, or get a money order, whatever the case may be. They say, oh, okay. And they write it down. Because they're going to go check on all that. They're going to go check on all that. So can you tell us what time you were at these banks and all this and that so we can make sure? And he's like, hold on, what is all of this about? And they said, well, we've had a string of bank robberies been going on for the last few years. And it's a person that meets your description, matches your description. He said, well, I ain't robbed no banks. And he said, am I under arrest? He been schooled real good. And they said, no, you're not under arrest yet, but we just want to talk to you. Do you have a problem talking to us? He said, no, I don't talk to the police. He said, if I'm not under arrest, I'm getting up and I'm leaving. May I leave? They said, yeah, you can leave anytime you want to. Miami gets up and he walks out. Gets back to the house, tells Snake what's going on. Police sitting right out front, they're watching. So Snake tells him, he said, look, it's going to get tricky. It's going to get tricky. And maybe it's time for us to shut down and leave. So they stop. Now, when they get to counting their money, they both of them over 6 figures doing real nice. Real nice, got plenty of money put up. But see, what Miami didn't understand is something that I want y'all to understand. Ain't no right way to do wrong, and ain't no perfect way, you know what I'm saying, to get away with. Ain't no perfect plan when it comes to the crime thing, right? But I'm going to tell you something. Snake found a way to get away, right? Listen to me. Let me tell you. Snake found a way to get away. And it's going to be something that's going to surprise you, but you got to pay attention. Snake knew from his experience that eventually they were coming to the house. They were going to get both of them. And that's just that on that. They had nothing on Snake to connect him. But based on the conversation that Miami had with Snake after he come from the police department, they had enough on him. He knew that. But he's telling Miami, don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. He said, we need to put the money up, and then we need to make plans to get out of town and don't come back to Tennessee. Period. Bar none. So Miami, as the apprentice, he's listening to everything that Snake is telling him. And he's believing everything that Snake is telling him. So while he's listening to everything that Snake is telling him, he's not paying attention to what Snake is doing. That's what he's not doing. Because he's in his mind, he's not figuring that Snake is about to bite him. Remember, folks' name is Snake. Whose name is Snake if they're not a snake? You understand what I'm saying? His name is Snake, y'all. So Snake goes down to the police department. Miami's at work. Now Snake done went and got all the money, and put it up. He goes down to the police department. He said, look, I don't have nothing to do with what he got going on, and I don't want no problems. But I didn't know that he was listening to the old stories I would be telling, and he was going to go do this. So they said, what you talking about? So he told them the whole story. He said, I used to talk to him in prison about what I used to do, but I told him I done changed my life. I'm not on that. He was listening to everything I was saying, and he's been robbing banks. They said, how you know? See, he told me the other day. He told me about it. And he said, immediately, I got to thinking, they're going to think I got something to do with this. And they said, do you have anything to do with it? He said, no, I do not. Other than sharing what I used to do with him, I don't have nothing to do with that. I ain't robbed no bank. I ain't done nothing. So they asked him, said, well, we got 2 banks being robbed at the same time. He said, well, maybe he's got a friend, but it's not me. It's not me. I haven't robbed any banks since the last time I went to the penitentiary for it. Period. Now the police, that's suspicious, but they're happy to have a break in the case. And they said, would you write a statement to that? He was like, yeah. He said, but I'm going to write the statement, but can I get my stuff out of the house before y'all come in there and arrest him? They said, sure. But they told him, don't you say nothing. Don't tell him nothing. Now the police are not stupid. They're thinking, okay, he got something to do with this. And he's playing his role. He's trying to put it all off on Miami. They know that. But they give him some leeway because they're going to let him hang himself. That's how they do. That's how they do, y'all. They're going to let him hang himself. So he goes back to the house. The police watch him. He gets a few things and he leaves. Now, when he leaves, they stay right there at the house. They waiting on Miami to get out of work. They ain't thinking about Snake. They'll get him later because he's going to be a witness. They're assuming he ain't running. But guess what? Soon as Snake gets to the place where the money's at and he got a few of his clothes, he get on down on him. He gone. Gone. They don't know where he's at. By the time they arrest Miami and Miami's in jail and they're looking for Snake, they can't find him. They cannot find him. He's nowhere to be found. He's gone. And he's got Miami's part of the money too. I'm talking about nicely. Got away scot-free. Don't nobody know where. And Miami is left holding the bag. And they're asking him, who was helping you? Who was helping you? And he told them he don't know nothing. He's sticking to it. And they trying to make him understand and said, your partner is the one that turned you in. He's the one that turned you in. He don't want to believe it. So he don't say nothing. Now the whole time this is giving Snake plenty head start to get far away as he can with this money. I mean, he got over $250,000. He can go anywhere he want to go. They're not looking for him right now. Miami playing stuff. He playing convict. I don't know nothing. Now, Miami's gone. I mean, Snake is gone. And Miami finna be gone to jail. And now while he's sitting in jail, of course, he gets a lawyer. He's trying to get in touch with Snake, but Snake ain't answering at the number at the house. You know what I'm saying? So he's figuring Snake knows what's up. He's in the wind. And he'll hear from him later. He gets his lawyer. Miami got him a lawyer. 2 or 3 months go by. He ain't heard nothing from Snake. He ain't heard nothing from Snake. Ain't no money been put on his books or nothing. Now his lawyer tells him, look, your partner the one turned you in. And then he filed for the motion of discovery. He got the statement. Now Miami's sitting there like bewildered, don't know what to do. And he's pissed. So now he tells his lawyer that he wants to cooperate. But now it's going to be harder because he don't have a clue as to where Snake is. But they bring the detective down. He tells the detectives everything from A to Z. How they got away with it, even down to the lifts on their shoes. He tells them everything. But they can't find Snake nowhere. Snake is in the wind and gone. And they can't find him. And Miami is left holding the bag. Gone. And that's what happens when you play dirty. You can't trust what's going on. Everybody's going to have their own best interest at heart and mind when it comes to the police. Remember that, y'all. Remember that. Honor among thieves. It's funny. It's been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.